We are back on MorningLine, final segment with our guests this morning. John Ray Clemens, representative here in the state of Tennessee, Democrat. Also with us, Elliot Osment, attorney who handles a lot of these immigration clients. Appreciate you both coming on this morning. Real quick, just to clarify what we were touching on earlier. First of all, Representative, you said, tell me again, you sent a letter to the governor asking what?
Asking that he take whatever steps are available within his jurisdiction and legal authority to make sure that any children placed in the state of Tennessee come with documentation and that's updated as to the whereabouts of their parents.
Is it your belief that some children will be here? Are they here already? Is it being kept secret? What do you think?
Well, if the reports are true that they're going to place these children around the country, I think Tennessee is certainly as good a possibility as any other, just the same way that refugees are resettled here, because we are a welcoming community for the most part. But I think if they are settled here in great numbers, wherever they're held, I think it would be on a need-to-know basis. I think this is such a hot topic that I think they would try to process those children, get them placed in foster homes or what have you, and then, you know, I don't think they would broadcast that, quite honestly.
Elliot, is your belief that if they are here, that first of all, would you represent them? I mean,
Absolutely.
Have you heard from anyone, and do you know if there's anyone here yet?
We have represented many kids in the past on SIJS cases, Special Immigrant Juvenile Status cases. We have not heard, we have not seen any clients who have reported, I have one of these kids that's mixed up in this, first of all, separation from their parents, and secondly, subjected to the zero tolerance policy. There is a group, as I said a moment ago, that is challenging the zero tolerance policy. There are two issues. Number one, keeping the kids in jail over 20 days. And number two, the zero tolerance policy that keeps the kids now with the parents, but then running into this law, this judge's order that prevents them from being kept even with their parents longer than 20 days. So this morning, you're about to see it over the wire. This morning, an outfit called the Center for Constitutional Rights, headed by Peter Shea, is going to come into court this morning in the case of Flores v. Sessions, and they're going to resist the attempts by Trump to say that the 20-day rule should be relaxed. That's what is going to happen by the Trump administration today.
Right. That's what they're going to ask.
They're going to ask for that order to be changed.
So as far as you're concerned too, though, with what you do as legal practice here in Tennessee, I mean, you're prepared to represent some of these individuals if they need it.
Absolutely. And do anything they need.
What's that? And what do you think they'll need if they're here in Tennessee?
Well, in addition to the SIJS set of legal issues, they might need defending on due process rights. They've been denied due process, and especially if they cannot be reunited with their parents. We're prepared to contest that in federal courts here in Tennessee.
You expect you may hear from someone?
We may.
Okay, let's take another phone call at you. We'll go next to Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Go ahead, ma'am.
My concern is we never had this problem until Donald Trump came in for president. My kid's father is Mexican, and so my concern is, are they going to deport their dad? And then my kids will have to get deported too, because they are only 6 and 7, and we have tried to go through immigration lawyers and everything, and he has a work visa, but it costs so much money to process paperwork and everything, and my kids are wondering, are they going to lose their dad?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we don't know, because we don't know what the Trump administration is going to do. It all depends on what the Trump policy is going to be, and I don't think they even know what their policy is going to be. They try one thing, and when they get too much heat, then they have to change it to another thing, and I predict it will change 2 or 3 more times.
Let's go to Ann. Hi, Ann.
Good morning. I was fortunate enough in the 70s to go to Holy Name Church and be affiliated with Charles Strobel and the early immigrant population that came to Nashville. Later, I was fortunate enough to work at Glencliff High School that has the highest population of immigrant children in the state of Tennessee as far as population of students. Fear and ignorance fuels an awful lot of conflict. This isn't a party issue. It's a moral compass issue. We as Americans don't respect each other, so we're not respecting those coming into our country. And until we can respect each other and value our own human rights and our individual rights with each other, it boils down to a moral compass, not a party issue. This is a human value issue, and we as Americans need to take a step back and look at what we're doing to each other before we can look at what we're doing to those coming into our country that have every right to come into our country, because that's what we formed this country on.
Well, I think she's absolutely right. She basically repeated what I said earlier. I mean, this is a moral issue, and unfortunately, as Mr. Osment pointed out, we don't know what this administration is going to do. Depending on what side of the bed the president wakes up on, that's what the policy may be on any given day. Unfortunately, it's generally his mentality, his attitude, whichever the wind blows, when the priority should be families, human values, and how this is going to affect people on a daily basis. Just like the previous caller, you know, with her husband and her children's father, lives are at stake. Emotional well-being and the health of children is at stake specifically right now. But, you know, it's not just children, it's all these families that are affected by this. The ramifications of these types of policies that change overnight from day to day based on the whims of one man are going to have long-term effects on this country, and they reflect poorly on us as a people.
Let's go to Reverend Fuzz. Hi, Reverend.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to flip it here. I know you're too young to remember, but back in 1988, President Reagan granted 11 million immigrants, or something, whatever you call amnesty in this country, 11 million. I remember that number. I'd like to know what's changed now, and if a mom creates, commits a crime in America right now. I know lots of moms in America. You commit a crime and get arrested for drugs or something, your children are taken away from you. I don't know. And is there anything good about President Trump that either one of your guests can say that he's done? Because finally, 500 children are reported missing in Washington, D.C. back in this spring. The number is larger than that in Chicago. I'm not seeing anything in the news about that.
Yeah, you touched on a bunch of different points there, but as far as, you know, I'm not going to have you guys talk about what you think you feel the president's done right or wrong, but, even Reverend Fuzz, people are confused. They don't understand exactly still. As you said, I think it's because we don't know what's going to happen next. If you're looking now, what do you think? Okay, if we continue this uncertainty, what's going to happen? We've been talking about coming up with policy at the federal level for years now, and it hasn't happened.
Well, to address the immediate problem, which is thousands and thousands of people coming from 3 countries, which is Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. That's where they're coming from. And that's where the murders are happening. That's where society is out of control. They can't control what's happening to their people. And so I think the basic solution ought to start with a United Nations peacekeeping force, sending people from the various member countries of the United Nations down to these 3 countries and trying to root out the gang problem.
Yeah, what the problem is there.
Because until you attack this problem at its root, you're never going to end the problem.
And you were telling me during the break, by the way, in terms of the folks coming across illegally, the flow of Mexicans is way down, is it not?
It's way down. Let me give you some
because I mean, a lot of people see. My impression was that these days it's gone way down.
In the last federal fiscal year, there were 24,657 from Guatemala. There were 24,122 from El Salvador. There were 22,306 from Honduras. And from Mexico, get this, there were only 2,217.
All of last year.
Right.
Coming across the border.
That's right. No problem. The problem is not in Mexico.
Yeah.
The problem is with these other 3 countries.
Okay. I gotcha. Any last thoughts?
Well, I just, Reverend Fuzz asked what has changed, and I think, unfortunately, you have irresponsible elected leaders who are trying to place the blame for all people's woes on one type of individual. And unfortunately, the irresponsible leadership of this country is trying to blame everything on immigration. And that is irresponsible leadership, because, the demonization of an entire population is very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it is very irresponsible, and that is what needs to change. This isn't, it shouldn't be a party issue. This is a human values issue. You cannot keep blaming an entire population of people for every problem.
And nothing's that simple.
Nothing is that simple, and it's not the cause of the problem.
Gentlemen, thank you. You're going to be busy.
I am busy.
You are busy. And Representative, thank you as well. And again, both these gentlemen obviously have a point of view. Steve Gill with a different point of view will be on with us as we talk more immigration next week as well. So tune in for that as we try to cover every aspect of it. But I thank you both for coming on. We'll see you again soon, all right?
It was our pleasure,
Well,
Dick.
thank you for coming on. It's always good to see you both. Take a break. Programming note right after this. Stay with us.